Hello and welcome. This is Angie with CountryChicCottage.net. So today we're going to talk about printable heat transfer vinyl. So I'm actually going to use two different types. They're both from Starcraft, but I'm going to use the one that's for dark materials as well as the one that's for light materials. Now I'm going to drop links where you can buy these in the description below. So drop down there and you'll find all the links that you need, including the projects I make, all in the description. So first let's talk about the different types of printable HTV, and then let's get to making some projects. All right, we're going to test two different types of printable HTV. One that's indicated for dark materials, so it's Starcraft brand for dark materials. The other is Starcraft for light materials. So here's what I'm going to do. The Starcraft for dark materials, I actually like that for all fabrics, light and dark, and you can use it on any fabric. So I'm going to actually use it on 4 different fabric surfaces. I'm going to use it on a white onesie, an off-white canvas bag, a gray polyester nylon tank top, and a black canvas tote bag. Now with this, if you have multiple pieces, you will want to use some transfer tape. You will need application tape, transfer tape that's indicated for heat transfer vinyl. So I'm using this brand from Bright Idea Supplies. And I will link to all of these in the description below. Now for light materials, I'm not crazy about this on like a white fabric, but this Starcraft for light materials is great on wood. So we're actually going to test this version on a wood surface so I can show you how that application goes as well. So let's get started, and I'll actually head to the Cricut. I'll go ahead and print these. So we're going to use print then cut. If you don't know how to use print then cut, I will drop a link to a video below. So I'm going to print on these sheets and then cut them out using my Cricut. And then we'll come back and I'll talk about the printing and cutting process, and then we'll start applying these to all of our surfaces. So I actually printed all of my designs. Now, all of these designs I will link in the description below. But let's talk about mirroring versus not mirroring. So for the Starcraft printable heat transfer vinyl for light materials, you will need to mirror your image. Now I'm going to cut this on my Cricut machine, then I'll weed away the outside, and then we'll be left with what we're going to transfer to our material. So that means you won't need transfer tape for the light material printable HTV. So no transfer tape for it. The Starcraft dark material printable HTV, you do not mirror it. So you print it just like you want it to be when you put it on your shirt. We'll go ahead and cut it on our Cricut, weed away all the excess. Then we'll do some where we're just going to peel this off, and it actually comes with like some butcher paper that you can put over the top to protect your design. And then we'll do some with some application tape or transfer tape that specifically says for heat transfer vinyl, and we'll put some of that on some of these and see how it works. So we'll do a couple both ways just so you can see the difference. So now I'm going to head to my Cricut and I'm going to cut all of these, and then we'll come back and weed our designs. All right, so here is the printable HTV for light materials, and now I've cut around this with my Cricut. Now I do want to note I cut both of these on the printable iron-on setting dark materials. So I just picked one and I cut all 3. So we'll just start in the corner and we'll just lift up the excess. I do want to note, so this one for light materials is really delicate. I'm actually going to use a weeding tool, try to pick this up. So I'm just going to get, you can kind of see where it's ripping, but as long as I get everything that's around this outer edge, and then I'm just going to cut this paper. So this one stays on the paper. So if you had multiple pieces for this design, it would not be a problem because they would all be on the paper. And I did want to note we are using print then cut, so you can only use this with the Explorer or the Maker. Will not work with Cricut Joy. And then I also wanted to note that the maximum print and cut size is 6.75 by 9.75. So I made my circles 6.75 because that's the maximum size I could make them. So just to note that. And then this one I've weeded this one, but I'll weed this one live. So this is the Starcraft for dark materials. And I've cut this with my Cricut now. So this is not as delicate as the light. And again, I cut it on the printable iron-on setting for dark materials. And then we just want to remove all of the excess from around the outer edge. So this is actually 2 different projects, and this is 2 different projects. So we'll have 5 projects in the end. You do want to carefully remove this. It's not quite as delicate, but still can rip. All right, so there we have it. So these have to come off of their backing paper. I'll go ahead and cut them in half. But we're actually going to have to remove this from the backing paper. So what we're going to do is do one small one, just removing it from the backing paper and putting it on our design. One small one with the transfer tape that's for heat transfer vinyl, and then one large one both of the different ways as well. And that way we can kind of contrast and compare with which way is best. Now, if you have multiple pieces in one design, so if I had, I don't know, raindrops under these clouds in the rainbow, I would probably have to use the transfer tape just to get all those pieces located correctly. So now let's break out our easy press and start pressing. All right, so now we're ready to press. Now this is the one for dark materials, but we're going to use it on light, if you'll remember. So I'm going to press this one first, and I'm not going to use transfer tape. So you'll just need your surface. I'm pressing it on top of the Easy Press mat, but I think just like a towel would work. This piece of butcher paper that came with the Starcraft Printable HTV. And then I'm going to use an Easy Press. So this is actually recommended for heat press only. It can be used with an iron, it says, but it's not recommended. So this is kind of in the middle between an iron and a heat press, but I want to give it a try. So this is what we're going to use. And I'm going to preheat my material first just to get any moisture out of it and make sure the wrinkles are out. And I'm using my 9x9 Easy Press just because it'll do all of my projects, and I won't have to switch in the middle. All right, so this first one, I just want to peel this graphic off the backing paper and apply it manually to my surface. So I'm just going to make sure it's cool. And the instructions say 350 for 30 seconds, medium pressure, and it says that the pressure and the temperature are important. So you should note that when working with this, that you will need the correct temperature. So I do not know if I would do it with like a household iron where I could not set the temperature, because I'm not positive it will work. But I know with the Easy Press I can set the temperature, so we are going to try it. All right, so I'm carefully peeling this back, making sure not to rip it. It's not as delicate as the one for light materials. And I also wanted to note that on the back, it says what kind it is. So it says it's for the dark. And the light says it's for the light. All right, so I'm gonna get this off here completely. And this is actually not bad. I'm just kind of scared I'm gonna rip it. Okay. And then we'll place it into place on our onesie. Make sure it's centered and straight. And then I'm going to cover it with this butcher paper. Again, it came with the Printable HTV. And then I'm going to put my Easy Press down. I'm going to hit the green C, and I'm going to press down as hard as I can for the full 30 seconds. All right, when that 30 seconds is up, I'm going to lift my Easy Press. I'm going to lift my paper. And everything appears to be stuck. I'm probably going to let it cool just a minute and kind of check the edges before I call this project done. All right, so this is cool, and it is perfect. I mean, I'm actually really impressed with this printable HTV. Like, it looks gorgeous. And it's actually even a little stretchy. So far so good. So let's do our next project. So our next project is going to be this zipper pouch. And I'm going to set this onesie to the side. All right, so for the zipper pouch, I want to try out the transfer tape method. So first of all, I'm going to heat this just by itself for just a second to remove any moisture. And then we'll just set that aside to cool. Now the transfer tape itself, again, it says it is for heat transfer vinyl. And these are the instructions that came with the package. So you put it on your table, sticky side up, and then you turn this over and put it onto the sticky surface. And it says to start in the middle. So I think I'm gonna kind of bend it up just a little bit. Start in the middle, and then use a squeegee to press it out to both sides. And it says just to use firm, overlapping strokes. Just make sure you get it all. And then we're going to peel this backing paper back, and we should be left with the HTV on the transfer tape, and it didn't work from that way. So we're going to turn over this way and see. And again, it's not coming up. Okay, so I'm going to press harder. And again, this is my first time using this as well. I always like to do this for the first time on camera, so you know what issues I have, and you can make decisions for yourself. All right, so let's try again to peel this up. So I'm trying to grab this very first corner with this squeegee, and that worked great. Now it's coming off fine. So if you want to kind of grab the very first corner, and then as I'm pulling it away, I'm just making sure it's smoothed out and there aren't any bubbles between the transfer tape and my HTV. And here again, once I get to the cloud, it's not wanting to pull up. So I'm actually just going to pull this back and then work out any bubbles. All right. So now the HTV is completely on this transfer tape. And now I can just put it onto my zipper pouch. Now this is sort of an off-white, so we're kind of going up in color as well because I wanted to see what the darker colors would do. So I'm going to put that into place. And this is sticky, so it makes me feel better that it's going to hold this into place. But I am going to cover it with this sheet just to be extra cautious. That is like super extra cautious, but I always am when I'm working with a new product. And again, I'm going to push down as hard as I can for the full 30 seconds. And then once the 30 seconds is done, I'm going to lift up. And again, I'm going to let this cool before I lift up this transfer tape. So we're going to let that cool. I'm probably going to let it cool completely before I lift this up. All right, so this is now cooled completely, and I'm just going to start lifting up this transfer tape, just making sure everything's stuck. Again, super impressed, and it looks really, really good. So now let's move on to our larger designs. All right, so first we're gonna do this gray tank top. So this is like a nylon tank top. So it's a different material, first of all. Then it's a darker material, so it's the gray. And once again, I'm gonna press just to get any wrinkles out. Now this is also a super stretchy material. So I'm interested to see how much the designs can actually stretch as well. So we're just gonna heat this a little bit. And then for this first one, I'm just going to peel from the backing paper just like I did the first time. This is a larger design, so we'll see how I like it with the larger design. With the smaller design, I would definitely just not use the transfer tape if I didn't have to. Like I said, if I had multiple pieces, I would use the transfer tape. But I mean, I'm fine just peeling it off and sticking it to the surface. And this one worked great as well. So we're going to locate that on our shirt. And then we're going to cover it. This is the same piece of paper. I've used it for the other two projects and I'm using it again. And then we'll press. And I'm actually going to cover this with 2 sheets of paper. So I want to make sure that I don't get this Easy Press on this nylon at all. And this paper isn't quite as wide as my Easy Press. So I'm going to put 2. Put my Easy Press down and press down really well for the full 30 seconds. And once the pressing is complete, we'll just lift that up. And then let's allow this to cool. Actually, it's kind of stuck there to the shirt. And then we can just peel the sheet away from our design. And everything is stuck and is perfect, absolutely perfect. It's still like maybe a little bit warm to the touch, so let me let it cool a few more minutes and we'll come back and see how much it stretches. All right, so this is cool now, so I'm just gonna kind of test it. So it does not stretch as much as like a Sport Flex or something does. It stretches a little bit, but not a whole lot. So you will lose the stretch of the shirt itself once you put this on because it's not going to stretch as much as the shirt is. So just FYI, it's not like a really stretchy material. All right, let's move on to black. So if we are testing HTV, printable HTV for dark materials, we're gonna try black. So what I chose for this one is a design that actually has white in it. So you can see the white here. So that way when we add it to this tote bag, we can see if the white is not white anymore, right? So I am gonna use the transfer tape for this one just to fulfill my experiment. Like, do I like the transfer tape better or do I like just peeling it from the backing paper? So we'll use transfer tape one more time. Again, face up. Start with the center onto the center and then press out one side, then the other. And I'm going to go ahead and go over it several times this time, since I didn't really press enough the first time. Then I'm going to then we'll try the same method for lifting this up. And I'm going to have to grab it again. So basically I have to grab the edge with this, with my squeegee, and then pull it back. And then as I go, I'm getting out any wrinkles that appear. So pull it back just a little, press it down. So there is my design on my transfer tape, and now I can put it on my tote bag itself. All right, so I'm going to put this approximately on the center of the tote bag. Then I'm going to cover it with this sheet of the butcher paper just to make sure, and press down well for the entire 30 seconds. Then once my pressing's done, I'll remove the Easy Press, remove the butcher paper, and then I'll allow this to cool completely before I remove this transfer tape from my design. Now that this is cool, we can just peel back this transfer tape, and the design is perfect. And you can see that this white stayed white. So this is on a black material, and this is actually super, super white, so I'm super impressed. So the Starcraft Printable HTV on black material, on a gray material, on off-white, as well as on white. So now let's try the Starcraft for light materials on wood and see what happens. All right, so as I said, you actually mirror the design for the printable for light materials. And then we're gonna flip that over onto our surface. Now, the instructions for this are different. So the time and temperature is actually 375 for 30. And I'm actually gonna cover this because it's wood. I don't want the sap coming out and getting on the bottom of my Easy Press. Now, the instructions for this is actually to use a heat press and use high, heavy pressure. We are gonna press down as hard as we can on this for the full 30 seconds. I would really love a rustic look to the design itself, so we'll see what happens. But I'm definitely okay if it doesn't come out perfect. You might have to be okay with that. So we'll see. If you have an Easy Press, if you have a heat press, I'm sure it will be a little better. So we're gonna go ahead and do this for 30 seconds. Put it on here, press go, and we're gonna press down really hard for 30 seconds. Now we're gonna peel this backing away from the image while it's hot. So you wanna do that just as soon as we lift it up. You might wanna use like tweezers or something if it's really, really hot so you do not burn yourself, especially with the wood. It's gonna hold that heat in. All right, so once my countdown is over, I'm going to lift that. And I'm gonna grab a pair of tweezers. And I'm just gonna start trying to lift this up in the corner. And it's definitely stuck, and it's definitely gonna be a little rustic, which is okay with me. So can you see how gorgeous it is? I'm kind of excited. And where it was white, you can see the wood grain through it. So this middle portion, you can definitely see the wood grain. So just around some of the edges, I'm getting some rustic look, which I love. It's a little more rustic in this corner and a little more rustic up at the top. So the middle is definitely the best. Around the edges is a little more rustic, but frankly, I could see all kinds of applications for this on wood for rustic signs. So the Starcraft for light materials is definitely a must-have if you want to make some rustic signs. All right, so we made 5 projects. So like I said, I like the one for dark for all fabric types. So the white, off-white, gray, which this one, it doesn't have as much stretch as I would like. So putting it on cotton or something like that is probably a little better than a workout tank, but we're experimenting today. And then of course, I had to try it on black with even a white design, and it worked perfectly. Now, that does not mean I don't like the light version of the Starcraft Printable HTV. It is amazing for like a rustic wood sign or something like that. If you love that rustic look, then I definitely think you should pick up the light version of the Printable HTV and give it a try on some wood surfaces and things like that. So it definitely feels like I painted this on, like it becomes part of the wood, whereas regular HTV or vinyl especially sits right on the top. It definitely feels like it infuses into the wood. So it's a really cool effect. So I hope this helps you. If you have been wanting to try some printable designs, maybe you don't have a sublimation printer, you only want to make a few things, don't want to invest in sublimation or sublimation printing, or you want to put something printed on something cotton when sublimation only does a polyester content stuff things, then Printable HTV is definitely the answer. Makes amazing designs, amazing projects, all for you. So I hope you will consider picking up some Printable HTV and giving it a try. Now, if you have any questions about anything we covered today, we covered a lot, please ask those in the comment section below. If you loved this video, if it helped you a little bit, please give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already, head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We have videos like this all the time and you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me today, and I'll be back next week with another great Cricut video. In the meantime, order some Printable HTV and give it a try. Thanks y'all, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.